From the West Avenue Studios, this is the Jon Alan Show.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You're an idiot. That's it. Spin. There's hope. There's definitely hope. Yeah, that's a great idea. Not. Whoa. Wait a second. What are you talking about?
This is the Jon Alan Show.
Hey guys, welcome to the Jon Alan Show. Today is August 11th. It is 3:30 afternoon. We're a little late. What's new though, right? Busy week. Busy weekend for me, personally. Good weekend. I got to see some family that I haven't seen in years. 10 plus years. And that of course, is my fault. Almost all of my family lives in Texas or Louisiana. So whenever I don't see them for many years, that's all on me. But anyway, it was really nice to see them today. Not today, yesterday actually. Spent the day with them. And if you ever want to know you're crazy, why you say or do think the way that you do, spend some time with your family. It's not hard to figure out where I get my crazy from because, the funniest thing said yesterday was one of my cousins asking another one of my cousins who lives in Louisiana the first thing. All right, so how close are you to Duck Dynasty? Like, seriously? How long has it been since you've seen this woman? And the first question you have is about Duck Dynasty. Oh, man. But it was great to see some family. It was good to get away, all of the hour-and-a-half drive. And another thing, you know what that brings me? I had to drive a lot of highway driving yesterday. And I think I'm a safe driver. I used to drive a bus for the university I went to, and I'm a safe driver. Driving something that big kind of gives you a different perspective of what's on the road and how to deal with those things. But one thing that drives me crazy, absolutely batty, is when people in the fast lane think it's their job to regulate speed. It's not. So I'm doing probably 70, 75, and I see this little Honda driven by, cute little suburb family, and the husband gets all the way in the fast lane, and he's doing about 68. I just don't get that. The fast lane is called the fast lane for a reason. I want to go fast. I want to go 75, 80 sometimes, depending on what's around me. It's nobody else's job, unless you have a light bar and a siren on your car. It's not your job to regulate the speed on the highway. Really, all you're doing is creating a dangerous situation for those around you. I'm not a bad driver, but there are bad drivers who like to go fast, and they're going to do whatever it takes to get around you, and all you're doing is creating a dangerous situation for those around you and for those idiots who think that, they're the daredevil driver and they can handle it. Because a lot of those daredevil drivers are 16, 17 years old, and they can't handle it, actually. And the same thing, if you're going 45 miles an hour and you're on the highway, you need to get off. Period. I saw this awesome it wasn't dash cam, it was just somebody videotaping on the highway, and it was overseas somewhere, probably in Europe, and the police officer in his car, and they're on the highway, got behind this car that was doing who was going a lot slower than everybody around him in the fast lane. So the cop turns on his lights, and the car thinks he's being pulled over, so the cop, follows him over to the slow lane, and then the cop turns his lights off and goes around him. And that's exactly my thought, is if you're going 68 miles an hour in the fast lane and cars are going around you in the middle lane, you need to open up your eyes and get in the right lane. It's not your job to regulate speed on the highway. And that's my rant for this segment anyway. We got a busy show today. It was a busy week. Lots of news. All of it, almost all of it, surrounding Obamacare and the 2016 election. I'm getting pretty excited about the 2016 election because It's going to be a shakeup. I'm not saying that the Republicans and the Tea Party are going to take over the Senate and win back the majority. I'm saying that it's going to be an interesting fight. Because now Republicans have a popular platform to run on, and Democrats are having to distance themselves from President Obama's key piece of legislation, Obamacare. And you're starting to see a lot of the left kind of distance themselves from a disaster, is what it is. And they're trying to, they're going to have to anyway, explain themselves and explain their votes. Finally. Because finally, people who don't pay attention to what's going on, the voters who don't pay attention to what's going on, are finally seeing the negativity. What's going to happen if this bill passes? I mean, I've said it many times before. Healthcare needs reforming, absolutely. If somebody's paying $60 for an aspirin in the back of an ambulance, you know, there needs to be a second look at that. But you can't ever, in any form, try and pass one piece of legislation to change 6% of our economy. It doesn't work. It never has worked. It never will work. Something that massive has to be done in pieces. And Obama, who, when he took office, this was going to be his fixer. This was going to be his thing. I'm going to fix healthcare. I'm going to do what other past presidents couldn't do. I'm going to fix it. And it's a good place to start in your presidency, saying, I'm going to fix healthcare. But you can't do it in one sweeping thousands and thousands of pages worth of a bill and expect it to fix all the problems. All you're doing is creating a snowball effect of failure. In doing so, you're setting yourself up for failure. In this case, you're not setting, the Democrats or Obama himself up for failure. You're setting the country and the healthcare system up for failure. And now Democrats they're going to have to answer to why they're supporting something that's going to be such a negative effect, and it's going to have such a negative effect on not only the economy, but also people's lives. Tie that into the IRS, who will be handling this information, and the recent failures and questionable actions of the IRS. Speaking of, did you see that Lois Lerner is being tied into having been directly in the loop whenever it came to targeting conservatives? I don't have the story in front of me, but there's email showing that she was directly involved. So it'll be interesting to see how Oversight Committee handles that, if they do anything. It's kind of fallen off the front page, which it happens. Those things happen. Everything that is of importance to the right or a Republican or a conservative will only be on the front page for a few days, until Obama has his press conference and says, it's okay, children. Everything's just, these are just phony stories. These are just boogeyman stories. Just go back to sleep. It's okay. And he's been effective. 5 years, he's been effective. And you're starting to see it again. You know what else is kind of caught my attention today? Somebody who is gaining quite a bit of respect from me on one front. CNN's Don Lemon. He made the call to the black community, saying, okay, it's time for us to change our mentality. It's not about changing the, quote, white man's mentality. It's about changing our mentality. And he gave 5 points on what he could do, or what the black community could do to change their mentality, get out of what they called, what Lemon called, and what Malcolm X, and what who else did he say? Martin Luther King Jr., what they called the slave mentality. And so he had this very, very well worded and spirited and passionate call for change. And it wasn't about ending racism. It was about changing the state of mind. And of course, a CNN liberal anchor taking the focus away from the quote white man and their racism, taking the focus off of that and putting it onto the black community and saying, why don't we change the way we think and change the way we think of ourselves and the way we carry ourselves. And let's discuss the importance of personal responsibility instead of trying to shift the blame to everybody else. So, of course, every liberal from The View to the Reverend Jesse Jackson to even the people in the music industry, Russell Simmons, saying things like young people sagging their pants today is no different than young people rocking afros, dashikis, and platform tunes in the 60s and 70s. Twisting it to make it sound like Don Lemon is taking the side of the racist and not trying to help his community and the people of his race lift themselves. Now, and I don't think it's a race thing. I think those the talking points that he was saying, that he gave in his no talking point segments, you can apply that across the board. Personal responsibility. It's not about black people. It's not about white people. It's not about men. It's not about women. It's about everybody. It's about everybody taking responsibility for their actions, their current condition, their current situation, and if you're not happy with it, change it. If you're on welfare and you're not happy with it, change it. If you're not being respected in the community, if there are rivals within your community, change your attitude. Change it. Change your situation, because it's all about personal responsibility. It's not the government that's going to bring you out of it. Sure, they're going to provide assistance, but they're going to keep you in that form. They're not going to rescue you from your situation. It's going to be the individual's responsibility. And in this one area, I agree, and I think he's doing a great job to push the idea of personal responsibility. And I think it's a shame that other liberals in that position who have the ability to affect change and attitude change and to set a better example are labeling him as the racist, as part of the reason that the black community is not doing well. Not that they're not doing well, that they're having issues that, in Lemon's own words, they're in a crisis. So, all right, this is the Jon Alan Show. We got to take a quick break. Check out the website, jonalanradio.com, JONALAN radio.com. It's limited right now because it's not being updated. So there's some links on there. Check it out, or check out the Facebook, Twitter, all that good stuff. We'll be back.
Intentions or background, we should listen. Attack the problem, not the messenger. You also write, I can't accept that you would single out black teenagers as the cause of their own demise because they don't speak the King's English or wear belts around their waistbands. That really makes me question whether you even watched the segment or even wrote the letter yourself, because I never blamed anyone for their own demise. I never pinned it on any teenagers, on anybody. Nor did I mention the King's English. I did, however, mention the N-word. You also wrote, young people sagging their pants today is no different than young people rocking afros, dashikis, or platform shoes in the 60s and 70s. Russell, afros came out of the struggle, the African-American civil rights movement, and are a symbol of the appreciation of black beauty and the black aesthetic. The dashiki is a traditional form of West African dress which symbolizes African pride. Sagging, by the way, Russell, the hip-hop community of which you helped establish, dropped the G on the word so that, spelled backwards, the word reads Niggas. It came from Rikers Island in New York, one of the largest detention centers in the U.S. It was originally called Wearing Your Pants Riker Style. When you went in, you turned in your belt, your shoelaces, and the only shirt the jail provided was a white XXL t-shirt. Are you equating dressing like a criminal to African pride? Are you saying it's okay to perpetuate the negative stereotype of young black men as convicts, criminals, prisoners? How does that enhance their lives or society as a whole? I do give you, Russell Simmons, and some in the hip-hop and rap community credit for trying to clean up your act. Some, like J. Cole and Kanye West, are now rapping about social issues like the prison industrial complex. More of that, please. We welcome that. Everyone does. But you're not off the hook. Finally, you write, in part, I want the black kids to grow up and be like you. I want them to know that their imagination is God inside of them. Russell, I really appreciate that. But I don't want black kids or kids of any race to be just like me. I want them to grow up to be better than me. That's what my parents wanted for me, and their parents wanted for them. And as we approach the 50th anniversary of the March on Washington, we should all realize that it's what those brave men and women who risked their lives for our freedom and equality wanted for us. They fought for us and generations to come to be better than them, not to be illiterate or deadbeat dads or criminals. We must stop the blame for things that we can change ourselves. And again, as the first African-American president of the United States says, no more excuses.
Nobody cares how tough your upbringing was. Nobody cares if you suffered some discrimination. And moreover, you have to remember that whatever you've gone through, it pales in comparison to the hardships previous generations endured, and they overcame them. And if they overcame them, you can overcome them too.
Thank you, Mr. President. And that's tonight's No Talking Points.
This is the Jon Alan Show with the one, the only Jon Alan.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Jon Alan Show. All right, I got a huge stack to get through, so let's get started. Today's Sunday, so of course these the Sunday shows. It's time for the Sunday shows. Today was a first for me, and it was kind of an eye opener. It was kind of painful for me, actually. Let me find my notes for it. There it is. So on the Sunday rundown, actually, let's see what they did. Oh yeah, right here.
The Jon Alan Show Sunday Rundown.
All right, so Reince Priebus, he's on the State of the Union today, and I've never watched State of the Union with Candy Crowley. I've never watched it. And good reason. I'll talk about it after this clip. This is Priebus on State of the Union talking about the upcoming Obamacare funding battle.
If the Republicans position themselves as some senators have and certainly some congressmen have, that no matter what, Obamacare has to be defunded, that is, not implemented, does that not put you all in a place where you have to argue, why are you against all these good things? Because you saw the president, and that's exactly what he'll do.
Right, but Candy, you're picking out 3 things out of a bill that lists, 5,000. I mean,
right, but they're kind of the most important things to a lot of people.
No, they're not. But the Republicans had many of those provisions in their bill. I mean, when we ran in November, we were talking about pre-existing conditions, kids that were 26 on their parents' plans. I mean, this isn't like some Democratic exclusive or something. I mean, the fact is, what people don't want are government panels deciding whether something's medically necessary. They don't want a government panel deciding that their doctor, instead of getting, a quarter for every dollar of service, they're going to say, well, now you're going to get a nickel. Well, then guess what? I'm not taking that patient. People know what Obamacare is. I mean, it's European socialist-style type health care, and people don't want it. I mean, the real story here is that the Democrats in the Senate and the House, the ones that are vulnerable and want to get reelected, have turned their back on the president. That's the story, not the tactics on the Republican side of the aisle. People don't want this. If this was such a great idea, then all of these senators that are vulnerable in 2014 would have voted for it, and they didn't. And so that should tell you everything you want to know. The cynical part of me says keep it in place so that we can run even more on Obamacare in 2014.
Nonetheless, there are divides in the Democratic Party, you're right. There are divides in the Republican Party. As my father used to say, that's why God made horse races.
My first experience with Candy Crowley was in the 2012 election debates, the primary debates, and what a moron, and even more so, what a terrible TV show host. To call her a journalist is just ridiculous. I watched almost her entire show. That's a lie. I watched the beginning to the end of the Reince Priebus interview, and it was terrible. Producing, awful. Her reporting, awful. Segues, I mean, more awkward segues on that show than on my show, and that is hard to do. I was actually astounded at how terrible it was. So, all right. So anyway, moving on. On Fox News Sunday, Joe Lieberman and Bill Kristol kind of went at it, talking about the 2014 effects of really. Oh, there it is. Effects of Obamacare.
And the cost of insurance was going sky high. So the answer to how's it going to play out politically in 2014, I don't know. But I would say if you view the president's statement on Friday as an opening shot, he and the Democrats are heading toward the higher ground here, the better ground politically.
Bill? I hate to say that Joe is wrong, but, even Homer nods occasionally, and in this case, he's dead wrong. I agree with Carly. Republicans should have been more aggressive in setting out an alternative. They're working on that. They'll have one, I believe, that will be introduced in both bodies early next year. There have been other alternatives, but anyway, they were too slow in that. There were two disagreements among themselves. It's a hard issue. Having said that, delaying the individual mandate, delaying the exchanges, insisting that Congress be covered by the same rules as the rest of the country, those are winners, not losers. And delaying the implementation of those parts of Obamacare, at least, maybe not defunding the whole thing, but delaying the implementation of those parts is a total winner. And Republicans should make that case over the next 2 months and make it aggressively.
But part of the problem for Republicans is that their argument is being overtaken by people like Ted Cruz.
No, let's see.
Well,
I don't agree with that.
Shutting down the government.
I don't agree with that.
For now, at least.
No, he's not focusing on shutting down the government. Ted Cruz says, I want to pass a continuing resolution that keeps open the rest of the government. I think it was a little unwise to make defunding Obamacare the lead instead of delaying the key parts of it. But there's plenty of time for the two to come together here. And I think Republicans by Labor Day are going to be in good shape on this Obamacare debate.
Joe Lieberman said that the Democrats are taking the higher road. Surely he cannot believe that after they exempted themselves and allowed it from Obamacare. How do you say that is the higher road? Moving on to Meet the Press. Even more of a surprise. Today was just a Sunday full of surprises and disappointments for me. Ana Navarro, whom I never agree with, she made sense today. This is her on Obamacare. She's responding to the presser on Friday.
It's interesting, Ana Navarro, the big project that they have to get done is implement Obamacare in a way that meets the legacy moment that the president argues that they were in the middle of getting Obamacare passed. And he's taking on Republicans. I mean, it's a sign of a new level of fight that I think he'll bring into the fall. In his press conference, he took on Republicans who were trying to defund the program, saying this.
I think the really interesting question is why it is that my friends in the other party have made the idea of preventing these people from getting health care their holy grail, their number one priority. The one unifying principle in the Republican Party at the moment is making sure that 30 million people don't have health care.
You agree with that framing?
Well, I think there's nothing unifying right now in the Republican Party, much less a discussion around defunding Obamacare. As you know, it's been a very contentious topic in recent weeks, and there's many of us who think that it should not be a government shutdown because of defunding Obamacare, and there's a big spectacle playing out in public about it. But I also think, it's rather rich for the president to be throwing stones that way when what we've seen is an administration that's been making nothing but exceptions on this Obamacare, whether it's for corporations or for congressional staff. So maybe he should talk about implementing the whole thing he passed and not doing these exceptions that I'm very disappointed Republicans and Democrats stayed quiet on the exceptions for the congressional staff that were made this last week. There should be more focus on, well, if you passed it, live with it, instead of making these very strategic cutouts.
I don't even know who the host of that show is. I've seen him a million times, but he really just said that this is a new level of fight for President Obama against the Republicans. Since when has he ever shied away from taking a shot at the Republicans? Ever in the past, from when he started campaigning in 2006, 2007. When has he ever shied away from taking a shot? How is this a new level of fight? And in response to that, Governor Bill Richardson, just listen to the... I don't know. I don't even know.
Well, I think we should focus on the good things that have happened with Obamacare. Health prices, healthcare prices have gone down. Those insured with pre-existing conditions, that's been resolved. The issue of seniors getting lower prescription drug costs, that's good. But, a lot of it, David, is up to governors. It's up to the states. The states, the governors have the ultimate decision on, do we accept more Medicaid? Do we participate in the health care exchanges? And it's split. But I think eventually when this Obamacare is implemented, and I think it will be implemented, it'll be one of his crowning achievements in the first term. But right now, short term, a lot of difficulty. There's a lot of politics. And I agree with Ana. I mean, you have the Tea Party basically saying we're going to defund Obamacare or we're going to shut down the government.
So Governor Bill Richardson, at what point and what statistics do you have to show, number one, that anything good has happened from Obamacare, and number two, there are lower healthcare prices? I mean, how can you say these things? There are no statistics or facts to back that up. Also, lower prescriptions for seniors. I don't know. He probably hasn't seen this, but I work in long-term care, and I guarantee you, the prices have not gone down. They've actually increased over the past 18 months because of the cutbacks from Medicare. So, Governor Bill Richardson, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're looking at, but your statistics and that claim altogether is ridiculous. Moving on to This Week with Shorty Stephanopoulos. Donna Brazile on Democrats running for president in 2016 and what they're going to do with Hillary Clinton.
Freezing the field. Well, I don't think so. Martin O'Malley has made some noise recently that he's interested. Of course, we have Joe Biden, Kirsten Gillibrand, the senator from the great state here of New York. Elizabeth Warren, there's a lot of buzz around her. And, of course, Governor Cuomo here from New York. A lot of talk, and let me not forget Joe Biden, because he will call me this afternoon and remind me. So I do think, while it's too early to handicap the race, there's no question if Hillary Clinton gets into the race, there will be a coronation of her, because there are so many Democrats who, last time around, supported her, who I think are anxious to see her back out there again.
A coronation. A coronation. Very similar to what happened to Obama when he ran and was elected. Coronation. These people are above us. They know more than us. They can do better than us. Simply because they are the minorities running for president. Don't give them any leeway or the benefit of the doubt because they have had experience in the public sector and running government. No. It's not about that. It's about being a black man running for president or being a woman running for president, because you cannot name any significant change that they have affected that has been positive for the entire country. Coronated. That's a Democrat saying that she's going to be coronated when she runs. And don't expect any less. Of course she is. And the example that you can look to is, of course, Obama. So this week on the Sunday shows, a lot of disappointment, a lot of surprise. I don't like Sunday shows because the hosts are trying to appeal to the middle. You see a lot of Chris Wallace, whom I respect as a journalist and as the host of Fox News Sunday, really appealing to the middle. And then you see people like Candy Crowley, who have no idea how to appeal to the middle, so they just come off looking like idiots. And I'll say it again, what a terribly run show. There was one point where I guess the panel is pre-recorded because there was some glitch in the production. She was talking to her producers when they cut back to her, and then, surprised, she ended that segment. I mean, just terribly run show, and it was just a mess. When they were covering the California girl who was rescued from her kidnapper, she was stuttering, and it was not a professionally run show. And you look at the ratings, and it's no surprise. I wonder if I have those ratings up anywhere. No, I don't think I do. For whatever reason, I closed the screen. But the ratings, Fox News is just killing them. CNN, MSNBC, just killing them. Because the shows are terrible. The shows are crap. And you've got people like Candy Crowley making it doing the job for them, making the ratings so low. I wasn't going to talk about this yet, but it's a great segue. I'm learning how to segue. Alec Baldwin. MSNBC has just hired Alec Baldwin to take the 10 p.m. spot on Friday night when Lawrence O'Donnell is off. That spot right now is filled by Lockup. And that show is awesome. I watch Lockup. And that show is killing the news programs that come before it. It's killing them in ratings. And now MSNBC had the bright idea. Well, let's bring Alec Baldwin, who has absolutely no business on a news show. Let's look back in recent history at Alec Baldwin. Some Twitter drama. I guess some reporter made a claim about his wife. And he responds, "It's disgraceful that a reporter would manufacture and publish a story and not call for comment or explanation, especially when it's intended to take away attention from honoring the memory of a beloved figure like James Gandolfini." He continues, "My wife and I attended a funeral to pay our respects to an old friend, and some toxic Brit writes this effing trash. My wife did not use her phone in any capacity at our friend's wedding." He then threatened to find the writer of the story and F him up, referring to him as referring to Stark as a, quote, toxic little queen. And then, of course, I mean, it's a little bit further back in history, but this is the voicemail to his daughter.
I don't have the brains or the decency as a human being. I don't give a that you're 12 years old or 11 years old, or that you're a child, or that your mother is a thoughtless pain in the who doesn't care about what you do as far as I'm concerned. You have humiliated me for the last time with this phone.
So he talks to his 11... First of all, he didn't even know how old his daughter is, 11 or 12. And he talks to her like that. And this is who they want on their show, or on their network, running supposedly supposed to be a legit news show. First of all, what qualifications does he have, other than being a celebrity? What's the goal of MSNBC to do this? Obviously, it's a ratings ploy. They're dying. They're floundering in the water. And then people like Rachel Maddow and other anchors on that network who are stark gay rights advocates, what do they think about this? I mean, how can you legitimately promote gay rights and all these other liberal platforms and then be okay with letting somebody like Alec Baldwin grace the network? How can you be okay with that? All it does is point to the blatant and rampant hypocrisy of these liberal news medias. It's blatant hypocrisy. And they're never going to be held accountable for it. All right, we got to take a quick break. This is Jon Alan Show. We'll be right back. Check out the website, jonalanradio.com. We'll be back.
This is the Jon Alan Show.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. So speaking of Reince Priebus, I don't know how to say his name. It's either Reince Priebus or Reince Priebus. He's been in the news again pretty heavily this past week, and I think it's just a waste of time, really. There's much better things that he could be talking about. Basically, he's saying that the RNC will boycott CNN and MSNBC if they run these Hillary documentaries. My question is, who cares if they run these documentaries? They're going to do it regardless, even if it's not a documentary. They're going to fiercely promote her. And let's say they run it next year. They're still 3 years before the next election, so who cares? Why waste the time and energy on something that is futile? They're going to do it regardless in their own way. They may not label it as a documentary, and somebody's going to do it. I don't understand why all of a sudden this is the thing that you want to fight with them over. Not the fact that they're hypocrites or that they're doing a terrible job. Really, you want to choose this? I don't see the positive effect that this is going to have. All it looks like is Reince Priebus thinks he's being bullied, or the Republican Party is being bullied or whatnot, and he's going to tell the teacher. They're going to do it anyway. And if you feel that strongly about it, the RNC has plenty of money. Do your own doggone documentary. And like I said earlier, have you seen the ratings? Nobody's going to watch it. I mean, they did this huge special. They promoted this huge special on Nixon with never before heard footage. Nobody watched it. Did you watch it, Paul? I didn't either. I mean, nobody watched it. Nobody cared. So let them do what they're going to do. Because regardless, like I said, if they're going to do it regardless. They're going to promote her fiercely over the next 3 years. And maybe they don't call it a documentary. But the same thing is going to happen. And what are we afraid of? What does he think it's going to do? People already, they're talking about coronating her. I mean, heck, maybe it'll shed a little light on what a fraud she actually is. Now, of course it's not going to happen. Coming from CNN or MSNBC, they're not actually going to try and get to the truth, which, we've come to expect. That's fine. But, spend your time doing something a little bit more constructive and a little less acting like a victim of something that's not happened yet, that will likely happen, and that will have no effect in the end. I mean, I like Reince Priebus. I think he's done good things for the party. I think this is a waste of time. Speaking of a waste of time, Obamacare. Perfect segue. Man, I'm getting good at those segues. This from National Review Online by Jonah Goldberg. It's basically describing the blame game. The implementation of Obamacare has been a disaster. And Democrats are basically saying that it's the Republicans' fault for the rocky and tragic implementation. Basically, no crap. I mean, first of all, you've got a terrible, bloated, unplanned for bill. And it's not starting out, which everybody knew it was going to be a terrible implementation. And now that it's coming to fruition, they've got to find somebody to blame. So let's blame the Republicans. Okay, there's a problem with that, though. They didn't support the bill. They don't support it now. They didn't vote for it. They're not in charge of implementing it. So how exactly can you blame the Republicans? It's a bit far-fetched, I think. And so, okay, so what are they doing wrong? How is this their fault? I mean, if the Republicans passed a bill banning abortion altogether, every Democrat, every liberal, from the United States Senate to each state Senate would be fighting it. So trying to repeal a law that you didn't vote for and you think is going to be bad for the country, that's not a new thing, and it's entirely legitimate. And sometimes if you voted against it, you have the moral obligation to vote against it and try to repeal it. This is the same thing that happened in 1989 after a backlash from seniors. Congress repealed a Medicare reform law that didn't work as planned. You know, and continuing in this story, he says there's also something just plain weird about criticizing politicians for trying to get rid of a law that has been, and continues to be unpopular with Americans. If Obamacare were wildly popular, the demonization of Republicans as out of touch and radical would be more plausible and more accepted among voters. And yet it's not. He goes on to say that the only person openly defying Obamacare is Obama himself. The Department of Health and Human Services declared it would delay the implementation of the business mandate, despite the fact that nothing in the law empowers it to do so. They don't have the power to delay those things, and yet they did. And they continue to issue thousands of waivers, including to favored constituencies, and they're exempting parties with these waivers, such as congressional staffers, from complying with the law, because it turns out that, Obamacare, it can't work as it's written. That's why, for example, Health and Human Services and the IRS, they're not going to bother with verifying whether applicants for insurance subsidies are even eligible under the law, because it doesn't work. But here's the important part. And this, I don't think people fully understand. This is the important part. Once it's fully implemented, it's almost never going away. Robert Higgs coined the term the ratchet effect. Once the government sets out a subsidy, once they're giving something, reversing that expansion of government assistance is nearly impossible. Such as Social Security and Medicare. At this point, neither of those things can this country afford. And yet it's never going anywhere. Basically, and I'm not saying it, this what's his name? Let's set it down. Jonah Goldberg, the guy who wrote this article, is saying it. They hope that Democrats hope that if they can just get Americans hooked on the goodies in Obamacare, they'll overlook the flaws. They'll overlook the fact that it's bankrupting our country, that it's doing no good for our healthcare system, that quality, access, and costs are going to have the opposite reaction. Higher costs for the government and for people looking for healthcare services. Quality, because doctors aren't going to be paid for their services, is going to decrease. Less access, because doctors aren't going to want to do it anymore. Previous said it this morning. Why are they going to stay in the profession when they're getting paid 5 cents for a service that is worth 25 cents for a service? Goldberg, he concludes by saying Republicans should have a little bit more confidence in their own arguments. If you believe that Obamacare won't work, expect that it won't. But forcing a debt crisis or government shutdown isn't going to kill Obamacare. It's going to give the Democrats a lifeline headed into 2014 elections. So the threats are basically empty at this point. Threatening a government shutdown, which isn't actually what's happening, but of course that's what CNN, MSNBC, the liberal news media, that's what they're saying. So what do we do? I mean, what is the course of action? Just speculating about a debt crisis causes issues in the economy with the stock market. So do Republicans go through with that and then risk losing in 2014? Or do they let it go and allow the monstrosity to be implemented? I mean, what's the right course of action? I don't have the answer to that because both ways are losing battles. If you force this debt crisis and this government shutdown, as they're calling it, you lose in 2014 because the Democrats then have a platform. If you do nothing and you pass this continuing resolution that includes funding for Obamacare, then basically you're allowing it to go into full effect. Plus you're giving the Democrats a pass because they've delayed the business mandate. Or do you wait until after it's been implemented, after it's caused all this damage, and then fix it like they did in 1988 with the Medicare? See, but already, I think the Republicans have a leg up at this point because people are starting to see, and the most important people in this picture are small business owners. Heck, even large business owners. People that create jobs. According to a recent Chamber of Commerce survey, 71% of small businesses say that Obamacare will make it harder to grow their businesses. Half of them say they'll either cut hours or shift to part-time workers to dodge the additional costs the employer mandate will bring. Government employment data are starting to reflect the same thing. The average work week for non-supervisory retail workers dropped to 30.1 hours in June. That's more than a half hour less than just 6 months prior. And what's worse is that the most vulnerable workers are going to bear the brunt. The people that this bill is supposed to be helping, they're going to take the biggest hit. They're going to be cut to part-time. And people will argue, well, that's just the companies being greedy. No, that's the companies making sure that they're going to be able to open their doors tomorrow. That they're going to be able to continue to employ the few people that they can already afford to employ. It's not about greed, it's about survival. And it's the same argument with the living wage. You can't just assign some arbitrary number to a living wage and expect all businesses to be able to handle it. Because just because you have a business doesn't mean you have unlimited resources. You have to be able to ensure your survival. So Obamacare, whenever the employer mandate does hit, it's going to hurt the very people that they're saying it's going to help. And even though the mandate's been delayed, businesses are going to face some $30 billion in new expenses associated with complying with Obamacare. And this is according to the American Action Forum. The costs aren't going to go away just because the mandate's been delayed. A company is going to face a penalty of $3,000 for every worker who gets subsidized in the health insurance exchanges in Obamacare. Why does that matter? As James Capretta, who's a senior fellow at the Ethics and Public Policy Center, explained in testimony before Congress that, quote, a small restaurant chain might find it more attractive to hire a low-wage service worker who happens to live in the middle-class neighborhood than to hire someone from a lower-income area that might be eligible for the health law's premium subsidies. So, if you can't pay your employees enough to purchase insurance on their own, you're going to be penalized, because that person is then going to be forced into the exchanges. Because if they don't go into the exchanges, then they're going to be penalized. So me, if I'm a very, very low-income restaurant worker, and my employer, who owns this mom-and-pop struggling restaurant, can't afford to pay me $19, $20 an hour so that I can afford insurance on my own, well, I'm not going to not get insurance, because then I'm going to have to pay whatever the fine is for not having insurance. So I'm going to the exchanges. And then I'm going to put that burden on my employer, who already can't afford to pay me a wage that would allow me to buy my own insurance. And is already struggling to keep their doors open because they're mom and pop. Because not every mom and pop business, small business, rural business, has unlimited resources like these Democrats and liberals and these people who say a living wage is the only right thing to do. It just seems to me that the people pushing for this, these liberals, these Democrats who are saying businesses should be able to afford it, don't really have a concept of what it's like in the real world. You go open your own business. You take out the loans. You hire the employees. You deal with all of the startup costs. And then you can tell somebody, okay, you need to pay your employees enough to be able to purchase this insurance on their own and keep the business open and continue to provide a quality product and keep money in the local economy. And then tell them they need to start paying a living wage because they have unlimited resources because they're a business owner. I mean, I had this debate in one of my college classes. And the girl giving the speech about this living wage kept preaching ethics and morality. And sure, it would be so nice. It would be so nice to be able to pay everybody at a certain level so that we can all make the same and that we can all be successful in our personal lives and our financial lives, and so that we wouldn't be in poverty and all of that's great. But it's just not feasible in every aspect of life, especially small business when they're struggling. And it really, really gets to me when somebody says something like, well, they own the business, it's their responsibility. Well, the business owner has one responsibility, and that's to be able to come into work tomorrow, keep their doors open, and continue to provide the good things that they're already doing. Adding money into the community, into that local economy, employing people, employing them so that at least they're off of government assistance and unemployment, or trying to be anyway. I mean, what business is it of the government to say, no, your worry is no longer keeping the doors open for tomorrow. Your worry is now doing things that you can't afford. It doesn't make sense to me. And it's shocking to me that makes sense to other rational human beings. Maybe that's my problem. Maybe I'm expecting that everybody's got a rational form of thought. All right, we got to take a quick break. This is Jon Alan Show. We'll be right back. Yeah, Paul, let's take that one out. That's terrible. Hey guys, welcome back to the Jon Alan Show, and I'm sorry, that liner is awful. Alright guys, we're wrapping up the show. This is the Jon Alan Show. The hypocrisy, it's just something I can't... any responsible human being reading and listening and watching the things that are going on in politics cannot allow certain things to get past us, especially hypocrisy. And I'm just going to read this verbatim because the independent review, or what is this called? Independent Journal Review, does it brilliantly. For the past few weeks, I've been talking about Walmart and the idiots in Washington, D.C.'s City Council. They are demanding that Walmart, who was at the time talking about bringing in 6 new stores, adding thousands of jobs to an already very, very poor performing economy, Washington, D.C., they had the right idea. They're going to push Walmart out by requiring them to do something that they don't require any of their other subjects to do. And yes, I said subjects because that's how they feel about these big businesses who are coming in, adding to the economy, adding to the number of jobs available to their communities. They don't really care. So this from the IJ Review. Liberal magazine The Nation accidentally proved conservatives right when they were forced to face their own hypocrisy on hiring practices by Walmart. One of their favorite targets has been Walmart, who is the largest employer in America outside of the federal government. But when the economic illiterates at The Nation went after Sam Walton's company, it fought back. Walmart's senior director of communications sent this email with the heading, "People who live in glass houses." The Nation, quote, America's leading progressive print and online magazine, recently encouraged its reader to sign an open letter demanding that Walmart increase wages to $12 an hour. And this article called our company one of the biggest abusers of low-wage labor. And in an ironic twist, ProPublica recently reported that starting this fall, interns at the Nation Institute will be paid minimum wage for the first time in history of a 30-year-old program. As ProPublica noted, the Nation has been paying its full-time interns a weekly stipend of $150 per week, less than the current federal minimum wage rate of $7.25 per hour. In fact, assuming the interns work a 40-hour week, the pay would only be $3.75. So that's awkward. But it gets better. Seizing that they had been trolled so effectively by one of the largest corporations in the world, the editors at The Nation momentarily interrupted their messages, put down their Cuban cigars, and rang their golden servant bells to summon their underpaid, malnourished interns to respond angrily to those corporate monsters. From the famished interns at The Nation, they released a statement, quote, "The internship program is an educational, time-limited engagement that provides a unique training ground for participants at the very start of their careers. Additionally, the Nation Institute is a small nonprofit trying to raise money to support serious public interest journalism in a challenging fundraising landscape." All of those descriptors, they apply to internships, all apply to entry-level jobs. It doesn't matter that Walmart has to survive in a challenging corporate landscape. The socialist overlords at The Nation are now paying interns minimum wage, still less than the average that Walmart pays its employees. But wait, there's more. In a statement to ProPublica, The Nation confirmed that one of the basic criticisms that conservatives and our faithful sidekick Logic make about raising the minimum wage is, quote, "We are not yet certain how this will work out long term, but for the fall, we are anticipating hiring 10 interns rather than 12. Whoa! Wait a second. So they're having to pay their employees minimum wage. So now all of a sudden they can't hire as many interns as they did before. So somebody requiring them to pay somebody a certain level is negatively impacting the economy? That cannot be correct. So this is back to the article. So you raised the wage of your employees and had to hire few people because of it? No one saw that coming. Seriously. How can you call yourself legitimate when you are fighting something and proving the point for what you're fighting against? Walmart, they're going to bring in thousands of jobs to your community. They're going to add billions to the economy in that local area that's already underperforming, has high unemployment. You're going to make them pay an unreasonable hourly wage that is above what every other one of their competitors has to pay. And say that that's okay. And that that's the way it should be. Just because they're the biggest doesn't mean that, number one, they still don't need to, they don't deserve to make a profit. Just because they're the biggest doesn't mean that they don't have to worry about those stores' survival. from the ProPublica, the Nation confirmed one of the basic criticisms that conservatives make about raising the minimum wage. We are not yet certain how this will work out long term, but for the fall we are anticipating hiring 10 interns rather than 12. But Washington, D.C., they took it even further. They're not even going to stop there. They're going to make it negative. Make it a negative impact so that it just completely pushes Walmart away. It pushes those thousands of jobs away. It pushes those billions of dollars in tax revenue away. And then call it legit and call it good policy. That's just another example of the ridiculous, poorly thought out liberal policymakers, not only just in Washington, D.C., but in Detroit and in California and every other poorly performing economy in the nation that is run by liberals. And the biggest problem is that they don't have a grasp on reality. There's no grasp in what it actually takes to survive in a world that isn't subsidized by the government. So now they're finally able to take a step back and realize that it is bad policy and that they were being hypocrites and that maybe the conservatives have it right. Maybe the Republicans have it right. In a perfect world, in a very perfect world, we would all be middle class. We would all be happy, healthy, and have fat savings accounts and college funds for our kids. But unfortunately, it's just not feasible. And the reason it's not feasible is because we have a very poorly performing economy. And the reason we have a very poorly performing economy is because there's so much dependence on these subsidies and these goodies from the government that nobody's willing to take the risks necessary to bolster the middle class, to be able to create more jobs, which in turn, of course, puts more money into the economy, makes the economy perform better. When the economy is performing better, more people have jobs, more people have money, more people are able to save. And that's how, and we've seen it in the past, and we have 100 years of evidence of how the middle class is the ruling class of the economy. It's small business, it's middle class that holds this nation together. And you can put that on a stump speech all you want, but until you're actually making a difference and allowing companies like Walmart to come in and pay, even if it is just minimum wage, they're creating jobs, they're adding to the economy, which can only be a good thing. And don't for a second say that it's Walmart being greedy. You know who's being greedy? Are those idiots on the city council saying that Walmart, just because they are the biggest employer aside from the federal government in North America, just because of that, they should be forced to pay higher wages because they've been successful. That's not how it works. When these Walmart stores start performing and they are doing well, that's when the wages are driven up. When Walmart knows that they can keep their doors open for another year and be able to pay their employees higher wages, that's when the wages are driven up. It's not about being fair, it's about survival. And Walmart's survival means the survival of every one of their employees. But the liberals don't get it. They would much rather Walmart spread those profits, the money that they're setting aside for improvements. They want that money spread to the point where there is no certainty to tomorrow. There is no certainty that when the economy crashes or when there is a negative effect from Obamacare, for example, there is no certainty that they'll be able to keep those doors open tomorrow. And you know, what does that lead to? That leads to another major corporation needing a bailout. Because the second Walmart goes under, millions... How many jobs is Walmart? I mean, they're the second largest employer in North America. They fail, thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands of middle-class Americans fail along with them. So go for it. Let's go ahead. Let's make Walmart responsible for the burden that the federal government has put on us. Let's make them pay a higher wage, but you're going to see the negative effects almost immediately, just like Walmart did. Just like Walmart did, just like Washington, D.C. saw. You want to mess around? You want to play games? All right, well, we're not coming in. Your community and your economy is going to suffer for your stupid decisions and your liberal locked up thinking. And another liberal locked up thought is that this is the showdown that's coming up in September over funding Obamacare, saying that this is going to be a government shutdown. Well, Eric Cantor, he's clarifying the House strategy by saying no one's advocating a government shutdown. In order to avoid a government shutdown, they need 60 votes in the Senate and 218 votes in the House to pass a continuing resolution. To get 60 votes in the Senate, you need at least 14 Democrats to join the Republicans to pass a continuing resolution that defunds Obamacare. Right now, there's not a single Democrat in the Senate who would join them. If and when defunding has 60 votes in the Senate, we'll absolutely deliver more than 218 in the House. So that's not even on their sites at this point. What that is that's a liberal media thought placed out in the universe for people to pick up on and say, oh, the Republicans aren't getting what they want, so they're going to shut down the government. Well, that's not what's happening. And he's right. You know, it's 60 votes, and it's not going to happen. Getting 14 Democrats to join the Republican, at this point, that's not going to happen. Because Democrats are still in that liberal locked up thinking that, oh, what did this guy?
Well, I think we should focus on the good things that have happened with Obamacare.
The good things that have happened with Obamacare that have no basis in reality. There's no way a defund is going to happen with that kind of thinking. The good things that Obamacare has done for the country. Because there's nothing that you can point to, no statistics, no facts that will point to it. But if they were smart, they would jump aboard. They would have those 14 votes immediately to defund. And I think the employer mandate delay is basically, it's very telling, because I think the nation, voters, are actually coming around. This poll from Newsmax today, don't normally use Newsmax, but it's a great indication of what's going on. Question 1, do you support the full repeal of Obama's healthcare plan? Yes, repeal it completely, 79%, 1.2 million. No, don't repeal it at all, 266,000, 16%. Do you agree with the Supreme Court's ruling upholding Obamacare? Yes, 17% agree. No, 82% of people disagree with the Supreme Court's ruling. So it's finally coming full circle. But liberal locked up thinking, it's going to prevail, and it's going to cost senators their jobs.
We should focus on the good things that have happened with Obamacare.
And that kind of thinking is a great way to be proven an idiot in 2 years, Because if this thing does become funded, if it goes through, the negative effects will be immediate.
It is up to government.
And it's going to be ugly. And we're going to continue to follow it here on the Jon Alan Show, because next to amnesty, this is very important. And the reason is what I discussed earlier, the ratchet effect. Once it's out there, it's never coming back. Can it be tweaked and fixed? Sure. Will it cost an enormous amount of money? Yes, absolutely. Will it cost headaches, heartaches? Absolutely. It's bad policy. That's what bad policy does. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me on the Jon Alan Show. 83 minutes of fun knowledge, right? Shut up, Paul. I don't know how to end it. So anyway, this has been the Jon Alan Show. I thank you very much for listening. Check out the website, jonalanradio.com, JONALAN radio.com. Facebook, Twitter, all those links are up there. We'll see you next week. Bye.
From the West Avenue Studios, this is the Jon Alan Show.